Hello there, everybody. This is Jay Frost speaking to you from, of all places, Hollywood at the Magic Castle Hotel. So if we have any interruptions in internet today, we apologize for that in advance, although we expect the magic to be in our favor. And we really appreciate all of you being here with us as we venture into this magical territory of the topic today on the How to Raise show, one of the three shows offered to you by the Philanthropy Mastermind series, of course, underwritten by our friends at Evertrue Studios, a division of Evertrue, the global leader in donor engagement and fundraising intelligence, helping nonprofits find, engage, and inspire their supporters. If that sounds like I'm advertising them, actually, it's a sentiment that I really believe. I just came back from the AFP conference not far away from here in San Diego. Really terrific gathering of fundraisers. If you were a part of that, it was wonderful to see you wandering the halls. If you were not, I know that you'll have a little taste of some of that, of course, with today's terrific presentation. But we won't be talking much about Evertrue itself today. So if you're interested in knowing about either Evertrue or, of course, DonorSearch, the company that recently merged with Evertrue and has been supporting this series now for 10 years. This is year 11. You can learn more about them, of course, through those QR codes that you'll see, that you saw at the beginning, you'll see at the end, by the links you'll see in the chat, and, of course, by just checking out the website at donorsearch.net, where you'll find all of our content for the past 2 or 3 years in the Philanthropy Mastermind series ready for you right there. Now that's enough of that for the moment, and I do want to jump into, of course, what we're talking about today. And a quick reminder for those who are with us live, we would love to know where you're from, which part of the world or the country, maybe which organization you're with. Any of that information I know will be enormously valuable to our guest, who I'm going to be introducing to you in a moment. So please go ahead and join Elliot from Astoria and other friends right there in the chat and just say howdy. We would really appreciate that. Hi there, Alicia and Christy and Iska, Kelly, Myrna, Ed. It's great to see all of you here. Really thank you for spending some time with us today. But I know why you're here. You're not here for me. So I'm going to very quickly just give you a couple of housekeeping notes and then jump right into an introduction to our guest presenter, who I know you will love. Of course, in addition to the chat, you'll see something at the very end, which is a survey. And I know surveys can be a chore sometimes. This one is not. It's about 30 seconds or less to let us know what you want to see in here in the future. So first of all, you can give a thumbs up to the presentation today. I know our presenter will love that. So if you feel that this was really a terrific presentation, please do say that. But also let us know what you want to see in here as we go forward this year. You can do that right in that survey. Again, no more than 30 seconds. Whenever you log off, it'll be there waiting for you. We're often asked, additionally, whether or not you can gain access to a recording of this or the slides. I'll ask our presenter, Andrew, about the slides in a minute, but of course the recording will be available to you. Hi there, Morgan from East Texas. Will be available to you afterwards, and you can find it either through the email that comes to you afterwards. So make sure that this email will go and skip your spam filter and be ready, waiting for you. But also you can gain access to it through the YouTube channel that is maintained by DonorSearch. And if you're not a subscriber to that thing, please do subscribe. It's a great way to see all of our content as it arrives, including all the shorts we're producing now at a rate of about 5 a week, thanks to our producer, Jack Frost. Thank you, Jack, on the other side of the desk here. So let me go ahead now and tell you what we're going to be talking about today, and that is remote work. We know it hasn't just changed. My gosh, anybody who's been in the field, especially the last 6 years, know how much has changed as we work remotely or hybrid. But it's also changed how fundraising teams collaborate, communicate, and deliver results. And today's program, of course, is titled Success Strategies for Remote Fundraising Teams. It's going to take a practical look at what you need to succeed in a distributed environment, whether you're leading a team or you're contributing as a frontline fundraiser, researcher, operations professional. There are lots of ways that we work together. You'll hear about those today. We're going to explore how to build trust and shared culture across distance, strengthen collaboration through intentional communication, and stay aligned around priorities and outcomes that drive results. And our presenter to talk about that is someone who knows this very, very well, and that is Andrew Poulter, who serves as Executive Director of Development for the College of Medicine at the University of Cincinnati Foundation, where he leads all medical education fundraising. He brings experience across higher ed, the arts, and mission-driven organizations with prior roles at Eastern Kentucky, Miami University, Boston Lyric Opera, Cincinnati Symphony, and Chautauqua. I'm not going to go through his whole bio because then he won't have time to talk. So I'm going to go right in and welcome Andrew to the stage. Thank you so much for being here today, Andrew.
Of course, Jay, thank you so much for having me. It is absolutely a pleasure. This is a topic I'm deeply passionate about, so I'm so grateful that we've got at least 75 in the audience today, and please continue to just put your stuff in the chat. We want to know where you are, who you are, and if you have questions along the way, we might get to those at the end as well. So, Jay, I've got just a little bit of a presentation today. We can go through that. We can talk about remote work. And I'm really excited again to kind of share a bit about my journey with remote work. I've got some stats along the way to talk about the industry at large, and then some specific ways that you can incorporate strategies today. How you can talk to your leadership if you're considering remote work, how you can advocate for your team, and how you can stay connected. I think these are all important topics, and we're ready to talk about remote work.
Terrific. Well, let me make sure you can share and then let me dive
Okay.
right in. And so there we go. And you are all set. Thank you, Andrew.
Okay. So let's see. You should be. I'm not sure. Jay, are you seeing the notes or the non-note version?
Neither right now.
Oh, all right. Well, hold. That would actually be good if I click the. All right. How about now, my friend?
And it says you're started to screen share. And there we go. We see without the notes.
Okay, fantastic. So today we're going to be talking about strategies for remote fundraising. This is going to be for executive directors, members of a team, directors of development, whether you're a coordinator or a board member, this is going to be for you. So I want this to be as general and as applicable as possible so that you can again have takeaways today to talk to your team about remote work. So first, I've got an agenda for us. I'm going to talk about the status of remote work, where we've been. Let's start maybe in 2019 up until today. The benefits of remote work for the employee and the employer. I'm going to go through both of those. How to maintain and build a sense of culture. This is going to be one of the key challenges as we have dispersed teams or remote first teams. You're not going to have some of those natural touch points. So we're going to talk through how do we navigate that? How do we stay on top of that? In addition, it's not just going to be communication. There are going to be some specific tools that we'll talk about today. I'm going to dive into each one of those, my recommendations for incorporating those in your work, and how to then translate those into our work with donors. So our donors have become sophisticated over time. I remember a first board meeting during COVID where nobody, including myself, knew how to share a screen. I'm a younger guy and I was still fumbling and it was so incredibly stressful. I was sweating through my jacket. But now we're comfortable as fundraisers, we're comfortable as EDs, and we're comfortable as board members. Our donors understand technology in a way that they've never before. And so, how do we utilize that to stay connected in a digital space? Lastly, I'm going to talk about some of the drawbacks. There are some challenges with remote work. That's okay. We can talk about the challenges and how to address them. A lot of the work that we're doing is going to be similar in the day to day, but there's going to be perceptions about remote work, whether real or perceived, notions about this type of work. And so we'll talk through those. How do we navigate those? How do we discuss them? So first, I want to talk about where we've been. This is from these are labor statistics that you can pull online. I have all sources in my notes. So if you want to dive deeper into those, I will share the slides with Jay and we'll push those out to everybody. So just to answer that question right up front, yes, we are sharing these slides. So in 2019, that's kind of the era of pre-remote work. Remote work was honestly seen as maybe a luxury. There was just about 5.7% of US workers who identified as working fully remote. So I remember at this time, it was a period where if you were coughing your lungs out at work, you probably still showed up to work. And nobody should have done that, but they did. And if you were, let's see, traveling and then you get back to the office, well, you're supposed to be in the office next day because that was just a standard. A few people got to enjoy this privilege of remote work, but it wasn't commonplace until the pandemic. The pandemic changed everything for our industry, for the workforce across the board, across the globe. And this is where we saw the peak of remote work. Of course, we were quarantined at first, then some of that changed depending on the state that you were in. People were uncomfortable being closer than 6 feet apart. And so it just made us consider doing our work in a different way. We still had to fundraise. We still had to be an effective team. Our mission did not change. It might have looked a little different during that time, but we still had to raise funds. And so that was a period where our eyes were opened to the possibility. Now, of course, as we kind of normalized and things got back to business as usual, we saw those numbers draw down, and that's kind of where we're talking 2021 until the present. You'll see kind of ebbs and flows a little bit. In 24, you see an uptick, and then in 25, we're down a little bit. And it's kind of hovering around that 13 to 15% range of people who identify fully as as remote workers. So I just want to clarify, there are, of course, hybrid workers and remote. Today, our focus is on those remote. And hybrid would be anyone who is coming into the office at least 1 day a week. Okay, where remote, we're going to talk 5 days, all from home. And what does that look like? So just a clarifying point again, hybrid is what most of us are used to, where yes, you maybe come in on a Tuesday and a Thursday, but you work from home the other days, or what may be your schedule. So I want to kick off with my personal remote journey. And it's going to mirror a lot of the statistics and the data that we just shared. So I entered the professional workforce full time in 2015. I was an assistant director of development at that time. And all the way to 2020, until that fateful day, you were 5 days in the office. Maybe if you were lucky, you had a boss that let you go home early on a Friday. Maybe before a holiday, you got to go home 2 hours early. We were so excited about that. We're like, thank you, thank you. But the work was largely face to face, toe to toe, whether we were talking about our teams, our inner culture, or we were talking about working with external constituents. Yeah, we had phone calls and emails. Of course, that's part of our business. But those weren't tracked in the same way that they're tracked now. Then pandemic hits up into 2023 for my journey was remote, or sorry, was hybrid work. So I was coming in at least 2 days a week, maybe 3 days a week, maybe four, depending on my role and the needs of the organization. Maybe I had a donor meeting in California. Well, I'm not going to be in my office in Cincinnati, Ohio. Maybe I have something on site. Okay, that makes sense. But we were starting to get a little laxed and say, yes, it's okay if you work from home on Tuesday, or like I mentioned before, you're coughing your lungs out, you're sick. Please do not come to work. So there was this narrative shift, and especially as things normalized over time, it kind of loosened up. So I even had specific schedules of this is the day you're approved to work from home, but you can work from home. In 2023, my story changed when I moved up to Grand Rapids, Michigan, where I live now, and I'm fully remote. I have built a fully remote team, what we call a remote first forward team, because yes, there are some people in Cincinnati, but we're actually based across 6 different states. I'm going to talk about that, what that looks like, and how we got there. But my employer took a modern, progressive approach and said, you know what? We want to keep talent on this team. Why don't you try remote work? To the point where I actually signed a document with my HR that said, yes, you are no longer an in-person employee, you are fully remote. That did not exist in our industry largely prior to that 2019 period. So we saw our eyes open. Some stayed open and some have gone back down to traditional work, return to office. but I'm going to talk about my journey and the journey that I might encourage many of you to explore. So, with the experiment of me moving to Michigan, and my headquarters are still based in Cincinnati, Ohio, home of Skyline Chili for those who care about that. Also, the Bengals, the Reds, but of course, Skyline for those who really know. An experiment was started. I've looked at the data from my constituents. I'm talking donors, alumni from my College of Medicine, residents, you name it. Where are these people and how can we get to them? That was really the guiding principle, the guiding question of who's out there, who's contributing, where are the opportunities? So prospects and our current donors, let's find them out. And we found them on the map. Largely, 75% of my alumni population from the College of Medicine at the University of Cincinnati, 75% of them do not live in Ohio. So in medicine, you graduate with your MD and then you go into a residency. You kind of throw your hat in the ring as many places as possible. And whoever has that opportunity, when you line things up, that's where you're going. So it doesn't matter if you're going to Dubuque or San Francisco, Hollywood, or Grand Rapids, Michigan. We have residency spots here as well. So that was the guiding data. And then I translated that into what could a team look like? Okay, so we had the question, where are our people? We found that out. And what's the execution? What's going to be the strategy to get to them as consistently as possible and encourage flexibility? So this wasn't just an in-person approach, but from these various states, this was totally remote. And so we were based across 6 different states, everything from Colorado to Pittsburgh to myself in Michigan, Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, what we consider the tri-state region. So we wanted to have access to folks as much as possible and as quick as possible so that we can be responsive to their needs. If someone in California says, I'm free next Tuesday, well, I've got somebody in Colorado. They can have a direct flight there. It doesn't ruin or take up their whole day. I shouldn't say ruin. For me, it's at least a layover and then a full day just to get to the location. I wanted to see what it might look like if somebody could have a direct flight to any of our prospects. With this came opportunity and challenges. I'm going to talk about the results of the experiment later, but I'm going to dive into why are we doing this remote work thing? So from 2 different perspectives, the employees, us, and the employers. Maybe that's you, maybe that's us again. The employees are really the ones driving this. When we experience COVID and all the terrible things that happen from that, the flip side, the silver lining, was we were taught a new way of working, a new approach to fundraising and working with donors, connecting with people who care about our mission. One of the things that a lot of our employees share, and there's data to back this up, one of the highest reasons that they enjoy remote or hybrid work is no or less distractions. Okay, I'm at my home office right now. The only distraction I have is my golden retriever who needs to go out maybe 3 or 4 times a day. 1, does he need to go out? No. 2, does he like to go out? Yes, and play with his dad. So that's one of the only distractions. Another thing is the lack of commute. So we're actually saving money on gas, food costs, parking. I don't want to share exactly how much it costs to pay to park at my employer, but it's significant. And yes, some employers pay for it or maybe have free parking, but these fees that you don't expect when you sign on for a job. Food costs. All the food that I'm making is right here at my home. I go down to my fridge, which could be dangerous, but I go down there and I find out what I've made. I'm able to still work during my lunch break sometimes, or maybe walk the dog. Just have the flexibility. I don't have to be so regimented in my day. And the gas costs, the wear and tear on our vehicles. So I was commuting every single day into the office. Now I drive maybe 5,000 miles, 10,000 miles a year, less than the average. And so that's really helped in so many regards. The next is the potential for us to seek employment on the fundraising side. On the employee side, I can look at opportunities across the country. If some organizations are progressive, they're actually posting. I've seen several right now. I think the University of Michigan posted one that is, I believe, in New York, or maybe there's also one in the South. Of course, I'm referencing Michigan because I'm here and I think about them. Harvard, some of these bigger institutions, but I've also seen small shops. There's an organization called Cure Alzheimer's. They are completely remote. Yes, they have a headquarters based in Boston area, but they are totally remote. Nobody goes into the office. So it doesn't just have to be the big employers. And what this leads to is a sense of autonomy to do the work how we want, where we want, when we want. Of course, when we want is maybe the least flexible of those options, but how we want and where we want. On the employer side, you have the ability to look across the country at qualified candidates who you didn't have access to previously. Okay, so a lot of us were paying for people to relocate to our area. Maybe our area is not as desirable. Maybe not everything's as glamorous as San Francisco or New York City. As much as I love Cincinnati, Ohio, I don't think people realize how awesome of a city it is until they get there. And so, like, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to check out these opportunities. But now you say, you know what? Stay where you are. Let's try this. Let's try this. Again, you want to stay in Kansas City? Okay, well, let's talk about that. And so this just has expanded the potential to hire qualified candidates across the country. Again, we're seeing higher numbers for employee satisfaction. They like the autonomy, they like the flexibility. This is something they're looking for when applying to roles. At minimum, are you providing a hybrid environment? At maximum, can you provide a remote environment? Two other things. With data, we're seeing increased productivity amongst employees. They like this environment. Largely, we're going to talk about drawbacks, but they like this environment. They feel productive, creative, and inspired. And on a practical level, maybe you don't have an office anymore. So that's a significant overhead expense that we just wiped off the board for us. Okay, we don't have to worry about that cost, or we can have a minimal cost. Maybe it's just a people box. So diving into the culture, this is going to be critical. In our field, we are relationship based, right? I like to sit with other people, talk to them, ideate with them internally. I like to meet my donors where they are, see, how they live the world through their eyes. And because we don't have this natural tendency to run into each other like you would at a traditional office, we don't have what we would call the water cooler moments. Okay. I'm getting water. Somebody walks in from a different department and, oh, what are you doing? And, oh, you're on this project. And there's just some synergy that happens when you just randomly run into people. And so we have to be extra intentional about scheduling that time. So a lot of the conversations we have, the meetings need to be purposeful. They need to have an intention behind them, or they need to be consistent. Okay. So I'm going to talk about the different types of meetings. When I'm leading in, when I look at the week, I'm at minimum scheduling a weekly team meeting. We chose Mondays just to kick things off, talk about the projects that we're working on this week, talking about progress updates in various areas. Who solicited who last week and how did that go? And let's again share information. Maybe this is where we schedule time to get creative as well. So there are different types of weekly meetings you can host. And then I do individual check-ins with each of my teammates. So I have a one-on-one with each of my team members. And I would encourage you, whether you are the team lead or a director of development, whatever the position may be, schedule intentional time to meet with each other. One of those opportunities, this is called a donut chat. And this is kind of the idea of let's connect over coffee and donuts. And one of the ways that a donut chat works is you pair up random people from various parts of the organization because you wouldn't run into them anymore. So I'm not going to run into IT or my finance team. So we put everybody's name in the hat, you mix it up, you can do a randomizer, and you spend 15 to 30 minutes. Maybe you get to meet somebody you've never met before. You get to talk about ideas. It strengthens relationships across the organization. It helps you feel like you're connected to the mission. Last, on this front, schedule some fun. It doesn't just have to be updates, progress reports, check-ins, check-ups. You can also schedule fun. Happy hours still exist, and maybe you take the 4 to 5 time slot and you relax. You don't talk about work. I know this sounds less than ideal for some because you say, actually, let me just take that last hour off of the day. But it's important to know who you're working with, who are they behind just the function that they do at the work, at your workplace. So who are they? What's their family about? What are they working on in a less formal setting? Try to schedule some intentional time that is just fun. Next is building the sense of culture. You have to have team norms, and I've listed two of them. There are many more. How do we communicate? When do we communicate? Where do we send messages and store information? This has to be considered in a different way. When it was everybody in the office, it was obvious. Email, Teams, if that was new, maybe there was Skype Business or Skype for Business previously. And I remember that was kind of sporadic. So it was really email, maybe a phone call. And now we have so many tools at our disposal. But that means when is it appropriate for a text, a call, a Teams call? Should we have the video chat on? Should we have the video chat off? Uh, is it okay to respond to a message after hours? So you're just kind of setting the expectation here. For myself, for my team, it is 8 to 5. And that doesn't mean everybody needs to log on at 8 o'clock and they leave at 5 p.m. But we have an agreed period of time that we are able to access each other. We primarily use Microsoft Teams, as well as some phone here and there, but really primarily Microsoft Teams. We have various chats. One's an all team, one's just the development officers, one is just specific interest group. One's a run or walk club that I'm on, not a run club, a walking challenge group that I'm in. At 5 o'clock, I shut off my notifications for Teams. There's actually a setting that you can use that says do not notify me after 5 p.m. So I'm really regimented, not about what happens during the day, but what happens and when. When is the critical piece, or else it starts to bleed into the personal life, and that gets away from the satisfaction that we talked about earlier. Next is the team presentation. All right, today I'm wearing a jacket. Makes sense. I'm presenting. If I'm not meeting with anybody, okay, maybe I'll wear a polo. Maybe if it's a Friday and we're super casual, maybe I'll wear a button-down shirt, or you can go crazy, wear a t-shirt. But what's the expectation and when? If I'm meeting with the donor, I'm dressing up. If I'm meeting with Jay and we're just chatting, we're talking shop outside of this environment, probably dress down a little bit. So how do we dress for the day? What does that look like? Just like in person, but really it's a little more lax. Our donors don't love to see us wearing ties. I'm okay with ties in person, but the culture's become a little more lax, especially on camera. And last, it is so easy to get lost in the shuffle when we're in a remote environment. If I'm the team lead, I'm the one setting the agenda, walking everybody through it, asking people to speak out and speak up. There's a different approach. It can be more collaborative. It can be more inclusive. And so asking different team members to set the agenda for their voice to be heard. Maybe they have different perspectives, different experiences, and they're going to bring that to the table. So make sure people do not get lost in the shuffle. It's very easy, especially in an all-call meeting, to shut your camera off and to go on your walking pad or just cook lunch or what have you. But to really focus requires some dedication. So don't get lost in the shuffle, be active, and it will work. This is something that I am intentional about. Culture doesn't just happen. Okay. Culture is an agreed upon set of standards and norms and traditions. It's not going to randomly happen. And I promise you will not see the positive momentum with the team culture if you just let it happen. It takes time to be intentional and to have a framework for how the team can thrive. Let's talk about aligning strategies. Again, you're not sitting toe to toe with the team. So how do we make sure that we're all moving in the same direction at the same speed? Well, in my role, I have several leaders that I work with, that my team works with. We've got a dean, we have a vice president, we have a president of the foundation, a president of the university, a president of the hospital system, all these department chairs and associate deans. Okay. So we have to distill all that information down into the priorities that we're focused on. Just like in person, we can't do everything for everyone. We need to have our talking points. We need to know what the opportunities are so that when we connect with each other and with our external constituents, we know what the priorities are. Remote work has kind of somewhat of a group project mentality where we're all pitching in. You can physically do things in real time together, like editing a Word document through Microsoft Teams. If I'm working on it and Jay's on the other side and we're typing, we can edit things in real time and design them together. So it's a collaborative approach to getting the work done, rather than just sending an email or waiting for this thing to happen. You can do it in real time together. Like this scenario I just described, a lot of the work, the fundamentals still ring true in a digital or remote environment. Okay, best practices are still in place. You just need to get a little creative and see, okay, if I can't pass along a gift agreement to someone or something critical to them, like business cards, well, how do I do that? Well, okay, we still have mail, but I'm not able to just hand off things. Maybe I order some swag for a teammate. So we just have to consider a different approach because they're not going to come in the office. I'm not going to just say, I'll give it to you when I see you next time. Having consistent dialogue is critical for the remote environment, ensuring that strategies are working together. I'm going to actually talk about some tools and tricks to make sure that this is cohesive, but there is an opportunity, again, to get lost in the remote environment. So communication has to be continuous. I have multiple chats, again, with the individuals on the team. We have a team chat. We have one where we're just being silly. I've got, again, the walking group. There's various scenarios where I've got chats running. I'm not active in all of them, but there has to be a continuous flow of information and dialogue. If that starts drying up, let's talk about how we can get back on the right track. And there also has to be a frequent sense of momentum, reporting on standards, reporting on projects that we're focused on, donors that we solicited, strategies. We need to be involved through communication, through these collaborative tools, and we need to make sure that we are moving forward. Again, same direction, same speed. On the flip side, so I've talked a lot about the internal. Now we're talking about the external. How do we engage with donors in a remote environment? Well, first of all, before I would say any of these, consider what makes sense for your organization. Okay. I'm at a university, public university, that is very different than a small shop, very different than human services, animal welfare, museums. Like, think about what makes sense for your organization, the audience you serve, and right size it for that constituency. So one of the things that we have utilized to broadcast large scale engagement is having town halls from our leaders. What's going on at our college? How can you be involved? These are typically inspirational and aspirational. We are heading in this direction, and we need you to help us get there. It's largely about sharing information with the call to action at the end. But that's making sure that people, regardless of where they are geographically, feel connected back to our mission. Virtual meetings, committees, and boards are also opportunities to engage people. So we have virtual committee meetings with our alumni groups. We have opportunities for our students to be mentored by individuals across the country who are graduates of our programs. Again, think through what makes sense. So boards, committees, you don't have to just wait till the next time that we're all sitting toe to toe for progress to happen. You can just take care of it through Teams, Zoom, and a myriad of tools that we'll talk about. Think about the unique opportunities that make sense for your organization. One that makes sense for my organization is we have a process where 5,000 students apply for 180 spots at the College of Medicine at the University of Cincinnati. And we need to interview those folks. And so we open up the process to our alumni who share a vignette, then they rank the students, they go on to the next one, and it connects our mission to our constituents, who are our prospects, who are our potential donors. It puts the pieces together and it makes sense for our context. We also have other programs. One is where you basically simulate that you are a patient. You go in, you know your backstory, the students do not, and they're trying to diagnose you. And again, that's just an engagement opportunity. It makes sense for us. It may not make sense for you. ThankView is a tool that we've used a lot at the University of Cincinnati. It is a stewardship tool where you can record a note from a student or a recipient or a leader of a specific area. It can be as fun as a birthday note. It can be however you frame it, but connecting and showing impact in a virtual setting, that's easy to do. We can talk as much about that as you would like. And last is make sure that when you have people who want to raise their hand and be involved, you have opportunities. Yes, a lot of us have headquarters somewhere in the country, and that's okay for people who are there. But if the mass of your constituents, if the bulk of your constituents are outside of the region where your headquarters is based, do you have those opportunities for people who want to raise their hands? Maybe a simple one is a day of giving or Giving Tuesday, whatever makes sense for you. But can you engage people? Can you build a sense of momentum? Can you find opportunities to draw people back to your mission? Now, some of the digital tools that we're focusing on really fall under these four categories. How do we store information? What's our processes? How do we communicate? And how do we track? I think everything falls into those categories. So we're all familiar with Microsoft Teams. Teams, of course, is a way to communicate with anyone across the board, across the globe. It's as simple as sending a link, right? It's just like we're doing today. Zoom is a very different version because Teams has more of that functionality of sharing documents, editing things, having chats. Zoom, not so much. Blackbaud is what my organization utilizes. There are many tools out there, CRMs, but that goes under the process. What are we entering into the system? How are we entering it? How are we able to pull it out when needed? This is our hub of information on the donor side. I'm going to talk about a hub of information on our side, but this is how we're going to make sure we have accurate information always. Zoom, similar. Todoist is a program that I've used for the past maybe 5 or 6 years, actually. I do have a paid version now, but for the longest time I used free. And this is an opportunity. It's like to-do list minus the L, and it's to-do-ist. And it's just you have a running tab of boards. You have various boards, and you can just say, okay, I need to do this, 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 this. You can flag them, say, okay, this is priority 1, 2, 3, 4. You can assign them out to others. So I can say, okay, this one actually goes to Jay again. And this is his thing, and we can sync it to his calendar and say, all right, our due date is this, and I can track all the progress for this project. It's a simple program, but it's very effective. I use it every single day. One that I have become acquainted with in the past 6 months is Microsoft Loop. This is a program that I think is underutilized, is under marketed. I mean, it's one of these parts of the Microsoft suite that is included, and I just don't think people know exactly how to use it. So Loop is essentially how you can build an intranet, right? It's an internal system for people that access information, track projects, know what's going on. So my team has developed two specific Loop pages that are extensive. And I do want to give a shout out to my program director, Amanda Barker, who has really taken the lead on this. She has learned the program, implemented it, and now we're utilizing it every single day. So we have what we call the DO notebook, Development Officer Notebook, that has everything a DO should need to know. And in this, we have everything from the car insurance policy, if you have a rental car, to gift acceptance policies, to notes about meetings with various department chairs. So we're developing this template where we can go to every department chair and it has a standardized list of questions. We can plug that in and we can say, okay, I have a meeting coming up with, in my world, maybe emergency medicine. That's a department. And okay, we met with that chair and here's exactly what I need to know are their priorities. You can customize it for however it makes sense for you, but that is our shared source of knowledge that everyone has access to because they have Microsoft Loop. On the other hand, as a team lead, I have what we call a project management dashboard. We have decided to call it that. So we've got the one for the DOs and then one for the team lead, myself at this time, and Amanda to go through what are the projects that we're receiving. If somebody says, you know what, I want to explore XYZ on the team, say, okay, this is where we store it. Later, we'll prioritize it. And we'll build out every single thing that needs to happen for that. So right now, we're working on an emeriti engagement strategy. Emeriti are those faculty members who have retired. They now have this emeritus honorary title, and we want to make sure that they're engaged because we see them as a source of prospects, just like our alumni and our residents who have graduated. So we are tracking who are these people? Where are they located? What are their capacities? What engagement opportunities make sense for them? Even though we have opportunities that make sense for the university at large, this is another specific population that we are going to segment out because we see significant potential with them. So what are those? Who are the key decision makers that need to be involved or have awareness or sign off on? All that can be built into a Loop page. And pages can have sub-pages that can be assigned out. It is really an awesome tool. I don't work for Microsoft. I don't want to work for Microsoft, but Microsoft Loop is a cool, underutilized tool. I saw a question in the chat. Can I share a screenshot? Yes, I will share one after the fact. I'm going to de-identify some of the information or redact some of the information, but just so you can get a feel for what a page might look like. Monday.com is one that parts of my organization utilize. That's another project management tool. You can see who's working on what the status is, what the roadblocks are, who needs to be involved, who needs to sign off for approvals, all that. So I talked about a little preview of the results of the experiment. I can provide specific numbers. I didn't get the time to do that. However, everything from the project that we started, the experiment of what happens when we are with our constituents across the country and providing this remote environment, what happens? So I got to play the role of scientist where I could change the inputs, track it over time, and see what are the outputs. Every single category went up. The College of Medicine at the University of Cincinnati went from raising about $15 million on an average year to raising over 70 million, 7-0, and is now poised to exceed that this year. And so that is not happenstance. That is not random. That is an intentional investment in the people and where they are, meeting them where they are. Um, so visits continue to go up. We now start to count, okay, instead of just a toe-to-toe interaction or face-to-face, an email counts, a text counts, a call counts. So visits are more inclusive, where previously they were hard to come by. And we did them somehow, but now we're updating our ways of thinking. Solicitations were off the charts. People didn't have to just wait to sit toe to toe with someone and hand them a proposal and wait for it, or email them and wait for it. We have multiple methods to go through. I can actually have it ready to go, screen share, get notes in real time from the donor, and we can sign off in DocuSign. We can make it real efficient for them. Qualifications. So how are we finding new prospects to add to the pipeline for the current and future years? Off the charts as well. And of course, as I mentioned, dollars raised just went up. I attribute this to allowing and empowering people to work how they want, where they want, when they want, and really trusting the people that we have hired. I believe that remote work is going to take a level of trust, and giving up the authority or the overbearing approach to leadership that we previously had. So I can't watch you because I don't know when you're in the office. I can see, yes, you're busy or you're not busy, but I just have to trust the people that I've hired and let it happen. We'll check in, we'll talk about progress, but I think if we get that right and let people work where they are, we can see some more results for your organization. All right, a few more slides. No, we're short on time, so I'm speed up over here. As I mentioned, it's not all just rosy. There are some serious drawbacks and ways that we can overcome these hurdles. That connection piece is one of the first things that becomes vulnerable. When you don't sit next to someone and have to see them every single day, 40 hours a week, it's easy for people to get lost in the shuffle. Again, make sure that voices are heard, people are empowered, there's opportunities, intentional opportunities for people to connect. It is not going to randomly happen. So we have to force some opportunities until it becomes part of our culture and our habits. Motivation, it's another thing. It can be vulnerable. There's nobody checking in on me. I mean, yes, I have bosses and things like that, but there's nobody watching over me. Nobody's checking to see, yeah, is he on the phone right now? Like making cold calls? So we have to make sure we're intentional about that as leaders or as colleagues, push on each other, see how we're doing, motivate each other towards success. Opportunities and upward trajectory are two of the biggest that I worry about sometimes. If I don't see you, and I see you maybe through your data, and I see, okay, you're doing calls and visits and dollars, but I don't get to experience you in person, there could be a tendency to get passed up for promotions. And that is something we just need to be intentional about. If I don't see you every day, I don't think about you. It's like out of sight, out of mind. So make sure that you're serving on the committees, you're involved, you're invested in the organization. It's going to require more than those who are in person. If there was an in-person crew, they're going to be the ones who get opportunities because they are just at the water cooler and they have the opportunity for synergy. We have to force it. That's okay, but we just have to be intentional. All right, lastly, last slide, and then we'll go back to our chat. If you're considering remote work, think about the mission and the people that you serve. For me, it makes sense. My prospects are dispersed across the country. Why not have our team reflect our constituency? We also have people who are sophisticated with technology generally. It makes sense. If you are an in-person organization, where your mission and your impact are in a specific area, might make sense for hybrid work. I believe that remote work can work for most scenarios, but think through that as you make the case for committing to remote work. Also, do you have the infrastructure? Some of the tools that I mentioned are included with the Microsoft suite. You can do things as simple as Excel and PowerPoint and etc. But do you have the infrastructure physically to do this? And last, is your leadership willing to be creative? For me, I had to make the business case that this can make sense and this is an experiment. And if the experiment fails, okay, we're going to revisit the conversation. I had to have people say yes to this crazy idea, which I don't think is so crazy anymore when the results show themselves. But you have to have people who buy in. One of the things that I didn't consider was my university is based in Ohio. I'm in Michigan. Some of the laws here are different. So they actually have to become an employer in Michigan. It's not the hardest thing to do, but there are certain states they shared, we will never hire somebody in California again. It is so different employment law. So just think about that as well. Like you'll physically have to be an employer in specific areas. Um, and you're going to have to make the case that our mission can be achieved from anywhere. I believe that we can do this as an industry. I believe that our work was proven during COVID times. I think our eyes were opened. I think a lot of people are used to going back to the office, and so that's what they like, particularly older generations. But I'm curious to track this as we have millennials, Gen Z, whatever's after that. Um, how might this shift over time? And so I encourage you to consider this mode of work. I encourage you to be progressive in your approach to work. Have these conversations with your leadership and know that this could be the direction of work moving forward. I'm not guaranteeing this. I'm just one person, but there's a lot of data to show positive implications of remote work for the employees and the employers. So my last slide, connect. Let's continue the conversation. Challenge me. Let's talk through it. I've got my personal email, I've got my LinkedIn, and I made this fancy QR code just today.
Thank you so much for all of this, Andrew. This is really great. And I'm gonna do keep that slide up for just a second so people can grab that QR code with their cameras. And then while we're and also your email address and your LinkedIn. I encourage people to follow you there. But before we jump into questions, I want to give people a minute to go ahead and load those up. I want to share what we're going to have coming up in the series in the next couple of weeks, if that's okay with you. So, first of all, on the PM podcast, I spoke last Friday with Ann Connolly, an entrepreneur, investor, and co author of Bitcoin and the Future of Fundraising, about her early work, even carrying a bag full of cash, going to the Central African Republic, and how that led to her leadership in blockchain for social impact. It's a wide-ranging conversation on tech, and I think you'll find it really interesting. And this weekend, this Friday, I should say, we have another conversation coming up with another guest, which is Jackie Blackbird, who's at Newman's Own Foundation, about her journey with indigenous support for the community, and I know you'll enjoy that as well. It's a really, really wonderful, broad-ranging conversation. You can catch the PM podcast wherever you like to listen to podcasts. And next Wednesday, while you were talking, Andrew, we just booked our guest for that program. This is our Frontlines of Social Good show, which is about the news in the sector, top gifts to nonprofits, and interviews with folks who are on the front lines of the impact sector. And we just heard from Shannon McCracken, who is the president and CEO of the Nonprofit Alliance. She's going to come on to discuss the federal investigation of the Southern Poverty Law Center and its implications for all of us in the nonprofit world. So that's all next Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Mark your calendars and then check out our website for details on that and everything in the series. Now let's go into any questions that are here. And Andrew, if you'd come onto camera now, then we can make sure to capture a little video of you talking to folks. You can go ahead and take your slides down.
Okay, sorry.
Well, I wanted people to be able to grab that QR code.
Sure.
Let's see what's in here. And I think we had something that came in while you were talking in the Q&A. So yes, okay, that's back to John's comment about how there was going to be a link to the course recording. And just to repeat that, yes, there will be a recording that's made available to you. So be on the lookout for an email, but also just look at the DonorSearch YouTube channel as well as the DonorSearch website, where you can see under the resources tab and Philanthropy Mastermind series, there are recordings of our sessions. And this one will be there probably in the next 48 hours. So you can look forward to that. And I don't know if I missed any others that were coming through while you were talking. I should have
I think we
checked.
had one from Devik and just said, can you share a view of the loop screen? So absolutely. What I'll do is I'll take some of those screenshots and just show you what my team has worked on. I'm also curious if anyone in the chat has utilized Microsoft Loop. Let's continue a conversation about that. There's so many tools that I'm learning about every week, and we're trying to incorporate those.
We do have a question from my favorite weekly guest, Anonymous, who is saying, can you describe some of the metrics that drive your gift officers?
Absolutely. These are standardized for the organization. So we have strategic interactions, which formerly were called visits. So this is inclusive of email, video chats, just like we're doing right now, text, you name it. So is it a two-way dialogue with the donor or prospect? So we have that, which leads into qualifications. Are we positively qualifying folks, or are we disqualifying? That's okay too, because that's good information for our system. Next time I reach out to all of New York City, okay, this person's off the list because I've disqualified them. Goes then into asks, closes, and dollars raised. Those are the standard categories that we have at the University of Cincinnati. We're toying with other ones as well, but those are the standard ones for our work.
One of the things that I love that you talked about is how to not just characterize, but how to quantify these different visit types, because there has been a debate in the field for a long time, I think, at least this is what I seem to be hearing, about whether or not a phone call, an email, some of these contacts are really real contacts or not. And I wonder how you feel about that conversation, that kind of continued conversation, especially in view of the success that you've seen by employing these approaches. Because there's the external metrics, how much money has been raised, but then there's the internal metrics about how many visits of different types in order to make that possible. So net, when you look at all this, how do you feel about that debate now?
Sure. For me, is the relationship moving forward. It is does not matter what the method is. Some donors I have solicited and closed gifts, and I have never met them in person. I don't. They could be 7 feet tall, or maybe I could be. That's not true. That is definitely not true. But I don't even know what they look like in certain cases. And we follow them where they are. If it goes through an email and they just want to email back and forth, hey, we still closed that gift, or we still made that ask, we still qualified that prospect. So I think it's less about the delivery and more about the content that's actually happening. Are you moving a relationship forward? If so, let's count it.
Uh, and then when you think about the dollars implicit in this, I know
Yeah.
sometimes people think, well, dollars are just a measurement of today, not necessarily of the relationship for tomorrow. But you've also seen this over a period of time. So when
Yes.
you look at this in that way, do you see some kinds of contexts and internal measurements of contexts being more productive than others?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest predictors of success are just doing the fundamentals. Are you doing the visits and are you doing qualifications? I think everything leads from those 2 points. As long as you're doing the fundamentals and knocking that out of the park, you're going to increase your odds for success. You're going to have more opportunities to get with more folks who then, out of that, will have a handful of qualifications. That's tomorrow's dollars. So as long as you're doing that, everything will flow down. Promise this works. You just do the fundamentals and you'll see success.
And then last question, kind of in the same territory. You alluded to generations, even trying to figure out what
Yeah,
we're going to call the next generation. I think
sure.
marketers are saying Gen A. I
Gen
think
A,
they're
okay.
running out of creativity in the marketing front. But the main point is, first of all, I appreciate the fact that you're recognizing everybody of all ages as people who can participate in what we do. I just want to make sure I say that. But do you see generational differences in terms of both the development officers, the people on our teams, but also the people we're
Yeah.
interacting with in terms of some of these communication methods?
Yeah, I would still see across the spectrum are baby boomers who are nearing retirement age, are Gen X. They're more likely to be the ones who show up in the office every day. When I do come back to our headquarters, they're there at 8 a.m., they're there till 5 p.m. Maybe they work even longer than that. They've got a different approach. The younger folks that I'm actually hiring now the Gen Z. We have interns and co-ops, and that's going to be the next part of the workforce.
Yes.
They want the creativity, they want the flexibility, they want the balance. And I think we can still accommodate that. We still have our standards, but they're getting the job done in a different way. And so I'm seeing the whole spectrum. Now, on the donor side, it's all over the board. I have people in their 80s who say, I would prefer to do a Teams call or to text with you. Okay, I'm working with someone who's 86 right now, who just wants to text back and forth for her bequest. So it's all over the
Yeah.
place. I would say it probably largely mirrors the generational differences in approach, but there's always those that defy it.
Yeah, it seems like a big argument for flexibility and listening instead of making all these assumptions that have often
Yeah.
driven our offices. So, thank you for all of that. If there was going to be one big learning, one key takeaway that people can then tell their colleagues about, an argument, I guess, for this approach that you've been advocating, what would that be?
I would advocate for the fact that remote work has quantitative results, not just qualitative. We can talk about, okay, work-life balance, but there are quantitative results that are proven through data that we can bring back to our employers that show an increase in productivity, inspiration, tenure within an organization. So I would lean on that as your business case as you talk to your leaders, as you talk to your boards. Let's try the experiment. If others are seeing these positive results, why can't we?
Perfect. Thank you so much for all this, Andrew. Really appreciate it.
Works, Jay.
All right. And it's been great seeing, in a sense, seeing all of you out there who are here with us live. Again, shout out to all those of you who are going to enjoy this recording later. Be on the lookout if you're here with us live for that email with the notes and the link to the recording. And do stick around for us as you make your schedule for the next week, both for the podcast and for our next program. We hope to see you there. My thanks once again to the folks at Evertrue who underwrite all of this stuff. They're so generous in that, so do check out their website as well as, of course, the people who've been with us now for 11 years, and that's DonorSearch, part of Evertrue. You can get all these recordings and different things, including our future schedule, right there at DonorSearch.net. My thanks to Jack, who's across the screen for me, for doing all the production, especially from remote locations like the Magic Castle. And we'll look forward to seeing you all next time. Until then, take care, everybody. Thank you, Andrew.